My parents, being who they were, didn't do anything to push me towards art. My parents didn't believe in doing that. They let us just find our own way to whatever it is we wanted to do. I imagine that was probably the normal fear that parents have of their kids going into art as well. You know, everybody connects the word starving with artist. They go hand in hand. It's not a reality, but it's how people think. And so, anyway, these are the paintings that I did in that time. And you can see, I mean, I wouldn't use the word talented. Prodigy, those are not words. And you can see, I grew up in the Bronx. Graffiti on the backs of these things. Bailey. So, but yeah, evidence that I'm from the Bronx. Towards the end of this, my father drove a taxi. And one day somebody left a magazine in his car. And in the magazine was an article on Boris Vallejo. There were 3 paintings and a write-up on this incredible illustrator. I tore the pages out of the magazine, I taped them up on my wall, and they were so inspiring. The quality of the work was just off the chart. You know, over time, I threw other stuff up on my dresser, and the pictures got crumpled up and fell back behind the dresser. But I wanted to do what he was doing. I didn't realize that there was a career in it. I just thought it was so cool. He's making paintings of dragons and monsters and all this other cool stuff. I didn't understand that 1-inch brushes and acrylic paint didn't yield that result. And I fumbled around a little bit trying to reproduce what I was seeing there. And, you know, frustrated, I finally stopped. And again, 10 years old with a 1-inch brush and acrylic paint, you're not going to be doing professional level illustration. So I stopped. So this is what I was producing when I was 17 years old. This was senior year of high school. Again, you know, you hear these words like talent. There is nothing here, nothing, that would indicate that I had any future in art. Okay? It's a very important lesson. I mean, I talk about this all the time. There's no such thing as talent. There's just hard work. So I'm now what, like 7 months out of high school. Again, I know what you're thinking. Sistine Chapel's right around the corner. But alas, no. I graduated high school and I could barely read. I was barely literate. I was able to read in a typical mass market book about 6 pages an hour. So it took me about 10 minutes to read a page. You know, and so I didn't get much of an education when I was in school. I wasn't a very good student. When I was working construction, I would take the train down to job sites. So I asked some friends if they could recommend a few really, really good books, things that even though they'd be painful to get through, that by the time I was done, they would have been worth the time. And plus, I was on the train 2-3 hours a day between my trip down, back and forth. Figured it was dead time anyway. A friend of mine gave me a book, and it actually had the painting from Boris that I had seen like 9 years earlier that I thought was so incredible. And so that was the first actual book at like 19 years old. It was the first book I ever read cover to cover. So I dodged reading all through school. Never read a book the entire time I was in school. So I started reading. And I kind of stayed in the science fiction, fantasy, and horror genres for some time. I had a ton of really great books, and just by reading, I started to accelerate the pace that I was reading. And then I took a speed reading course. By the time I finished working construction, I had consumed about 1,000 books on every topic you could possibly think of. I was reading about 170 pages an hour, and so I would read a full book on my way down to work and over lunch, and then start another one on my way home, sometimes finish that when I got home. And so, but I developed a ravenous appetite for the subject matter, again, science fiction. And so I started painting again. I loved the artwork on the covers, and I wasn't thinking career, I was I loved the idea of trying to make a painting like that. And again, still, we're now talking about, this is probably a year later. Minor improvements, but not really much. This is actually a Bob Ross mountain. From here, I got out of construction and I went to the School of Visual Arts for 1 semester. And that was a waste of time. What I found there was all the things that I hate about art education. I was attacked for what I wanted to do. I was told there was no living in this, that I need to find something more reasonable. And so I got out of there. I think it cost me $9,000, and it's some of the best money I ever spent. Because I learned for my $9,000 that there was no education to be had there. And I have people that I started there with that spent a hell of a lot more money to learn the same lesson over 4 years. Not only did they throw their money away, but they lost the years. By the time they graduated, I was a working professional already. So this is from what I did pick up at Visual Arts. A little bit of a sense of things. I saw some of the work by some of the teachers that were there. I started to get, by being forced to go to museums, I had a better sense of what artwork looked like, what finished art looked like. And again, so here I understood now the idea of using reference material. So I pulled images out of like swimsuit catalogs and bodybuilding magazines. And again, there's still lots of dead space in here, but you can see a progression. This is not a big jump. And again, there are paintings that fall in between these. What you're seeing here, again, is just pure hours in front of a canvas. It's not an education. You're seeing just hard work, 12, 15 hours a day, trying to figure the stuff out. And I figured out some things. I couldn't explain any of it, but I understood it enough to be able to replicate it from piece to piece. Again, so here, this is now 1990. So this is 2 years later, and I'm starting to think that my work is good enough that I should start putting together a portfolio. It's not, but I was thinking that it was. And again, I'm kind of working in a vacuum while I'm doing this. I didn't have access to any professionals. I didn't have access to professional level work. I didn't even know what it looked like. So I start putting together these paintings with the idea that I'm going to build a portfolio and submit them to the book companies, see if I can get some work. And so at this point, I'm 22 years old. Okay, again, still, I'm not seeing prodigy anywhere here. There's definitely a progression. I am getting better, but nowhere near what you need to be a professional. Now this is where it starts to get fun. 1991, I start getting a little bit more serious. Things are starting to make more sense to me. I've now been at it for, 3.5 years, painting almost every day, and this is where I am. And I'm sure a lot of people have this same story. You draw and you paint and you kind of hit these walls and it's impossible to get over them. Basically you walk the length of the wall looking for some way to get around it. The walls are too high to get over. And if you do find a place to sort of squirm through past that barrier, there's another wall right on the other side. And then you could spend months or years trying to find a hole in that wall to get through it. These I'm planning to use as a portfolio to submit to book companies. So you can see what I thought I needed to produce, the quality. I thought these were good enough. And you'll see the dates. And the dates are now becoming very important because it is in this year that I turn the corner from this to professional level work. Okay? And you can see, there are some things that are getting better, but I'm still like outlining my faces with black paint, and there's still lots of really bad stuff. Everything's a sharp edge. I have no control of values, or edges, or colors. And the truth of the matter is, I don't even understand how they work. I'm just painting. I'm just pushing paint around. And if it doesn't look right, I push it more. And if it doesn't look right, I push it more, and I stop when it kind of looks like what I want, and I move on. I guess about 1.5 years prior to all of this, I tracked down Boris Vallejo, and I saw an article about him that he worked out in a gym in New Jersey, and I tracked him down. Today it's called stalking, but back then I was just doing due diligence. I tracked him down. I found him at his gym, and I dropped off a portfolio. I was particular. I called the gym and I asked when he worked out. And they told me he worked out in the evenings, so I went in the morning and I dropped the portfolio off because I didn't want to, I'm not a stalker, but I did want to have access, and I didn't want to, overstep. I saved that for his son, which I'll tell you about. So I dropped off the portfolio, and it's some of the earlier stuff, and he writes this really, really nice letter back to me. Winston Churchill said that tact is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell and make them look forward to the trip. So Boris sends this very, very nice letter back to me. And the letter says, your work is very nice, if you're interested in doing it for yourself. However, it is not sufficiently polished for, and those are the actual words. I was looking for the letter, I wanted to bring it in, I couldn't find it. Your work is not yet sufficiently polished to garner professional commissions. I highly recommend that you consider going to college, going and getting an education. My son studies at the School of Visual Arts. Worthy of your consideration. Good luck. And that's actually why I went to the School of Visual Art. At this point, I don't know what I'm doing. I just can't seem to clear the hurdle to get from here to where I feel like I should be. I'm putting in the time, and every once in a while I get a little passage of a painting that seems to do the right thing, and then other areas I have no control. I didn't understand why things weren't working because I didn't understand. I didn't understand anything. I was just painting what I was seeing, which is what they teach you in college. Paint what you see. But it doesn't yield very much. It's not an education. Painting what you see, you do 100 paintings, you have 100 paintings worth of experience, but no knowledge. I was actually clocking half of the necessary work. I was doing the experience end of it. So when I was given the knowledge, it all just came together, and you're gonna see that. I was working on this painting when I sent a letter to Dorian, Boris' son. I asked him if I could come out and watch him work. At that point, he was still in college, I think. I think he was a senior in college. But he had been a working pro for about 5 years already. So he was doing professional work when he was in high school. So he called me like 2 days later. And he asked me what I wanted out of this. And I said that I planned to be the highest paid illustrator in the business at some point. There was a moment of silence. And then Dorian says to me, you know, I work in this business, right? And I said, yes, I am aware of that. And so he was like, okay. I said, why don't you come out? We're doing a bunch of photo shoots and bring your portfolio. I want to see what you're working on. I walk into his house, and on the walls are not just his paintings, but some of his dad's stuff as well. And I had never actually seen an original painting by a professional illustrator. I had no idea how good they were. I assumed that they took these things, they photographed them, they shrank down, they tightened up because of that. The quality of the original paintings is beyond description. It is beyond description what a professional painting looks like. She's fine. She's fine. So, excuse me. So anyway, so there I am in his living room, and I'm looking at these paintings, and I'm thinking, I don't even know how to like get out of here now. I'm trying to figure out how to make a run for the door, because I'm embarrassed. I said a few things in that phone call, thinking this because I had plans. I don't do anything to be in the middle of the pack. Nothing I do I do that way. Anything that I go into, I want to be the best, or at least the best that I can be. And so, but now I'm mortified because I opened my big mouth and I had no idea. So here I am, and Dorian goes, well, let's see what you've got. And of course I explained to him, I'm embarrassed. He's like, oh no, there's nothing to be embarrassed of. So I take out the portfolio, he goes through it, and he's very kind. Dorian is a really nice guy. I found out later on that he's not, he speaks his mind. I found that out just a couple of weeks later. So what he said to me, at the time I thought he was being nice, but he actually believed what he was saying. But he said that he saw some problems with the work that were clear problems, but they were minor, and they would be really easy to overcome, really easy. And that he didn't see any problem for me moving forward. So we went over to his dad's house where they had the photo studio, and we met a bunch of, I think 3 or 4 other friends of his who were artists, and we spent the entire day there doing photo shoots. And I'm now in Boris's house, like looking at just so many paintings, and they're just incredible stuff. For those of you who don't know his work, go and check it out. So we all go back after the photo shoots, back to Dorian's house, and everybody starts taking out their most recent painting. And when I showed up at Dorian's house originally, I was thinking that the vast majority of people who were producing artwork in this industry were really kind of mediocre, and that Boris was this incredible painter, and that his son obviously learned from him and was an incredible painter, but they were so far ahead of everybody else that it wasn't necessary to be that good. I didn't need to be as good as them. I just needed to be as good as everybody in the middle of the pack to start. I mean, I'd get better as I went, but I never imagined myself being able to compete directly with them. I just didn't see that. I didn't see that as being realistic, especially now that I was standing in the room with them. Anyway, so we got all these 22-year-olds taking out their most recent paintings, and I'm literally the only person in the world at this point who doesn't know how to do this. At least that's how it felt. They're all pulling out these paintings, and I'm just like, damn, you know, just one after another. And my heart just sank. I'm just thinking, I'm done. I cannot do this. I can't compete. Again, when I thought it was just a few people at that high end, I thought, yeah, I mean, maybe reasonable. But now I'm thinking, like I said, it felt all of a sudden like 7 billion people can do it, and I can't. And so, and of course, once they were all done, I had this moment, you know, in the Lord of the Rings movies, the first movie, when Frodo first puts on the ring and all the ring wraiths turn and look at him. That's how it felt. All of a sudden, everybody turns to me and they're like, do you have any work? And I'm like backpedaling, thinking I'm invisible. And Dorian's like, hey, he's got work. So I'm like, I take it out, and everybody's really nice. And I said to them, I'm like, yeah, don't patronize me. I know what I'm looking at here, and I'm not that delicate. I appreciate it, but it's not necessary. And so after being utterly humiliated, everybody was going out to dinner, and I decided, you know what? I'm done. This is over. I'm finished, because I can't do what they're doing. And so I went home, basically took all my stuff, threw it in the trash, because that was it. I was done. It was definitive. I threw the paint away, all of it. I got home at like 7 o'clock at night. I walked into my room, took all of it and just threw it away. I was done. And so it took me about 2 days to get over myself. And I started thinking, you know what? If all of those fools could do it, so can I. If everybody else seems to be able to do it, why not me? I'm not afraid of working. I do the work, just needed some guidance. I have 3 brothers, and we have chores, and it's our job, you know, every other day to take care of those chores. And being a bunch of boys, nobody threw the garbage out. So I got all my paint, and I got my brushes and my rolls of film, and I had to wash a lot of food off of it. But I got all my stuff out of the garbage. And I got in touch with Dorian. I got the film developed. I got in touch with him about coming out to sit down and paint. He had invited me to come out and spend the day painting in his studio on this first piece. So I took him up on the offer. He told me how to prep everything to begin, do all of this work so when you come out, you're ready to paint. These are the paints I need you to buy. These are the brushes. He just gave me a list of all of the materials. And again, you know, with the Evolve program, one of the big things, one of the reasons that you get the materials, that we send you the materials, is that what you're working with matters. You can't have mediocre product. You can't have a middle grade paint and produce professional level results. Or let me rephrase, you can, but it's a lot of work. When you know how to do it, it's not so bad. But if you don't know how to do it, you won't know if it's your failings or the failings of the material. And most of the time, you'll just assume it's you. But it could be the stuff you're working with. So anyway, so I went out to Dorian's house. I showed up at about 10 o'clock in the morning, real excited. He shows me what he wants me to do, and I go to work. I was there 13 hours. This is a guy, I met him once before, kind of was a little insulting on the phone. You know, there are other people there working. They all leave. I'm still working. Finally, he's like, I didn't even notice him. Finally, he's just like, I gotta go to sleep. He's like, just lock the door on your way out. Yeah, he went to sleep, and I kept painting. It didn't even occur to me. I was so caught up in what I was doing, it didn't even occur to me how rude it was. I was just painting. I was making a painting. So, this is the painting I was working on when I met Dorian. This is the painting I did that I overstayed my welcome. Just show of hands, who would have left? Which one of you would have packed it up in the middle of this magic and gone home? Yeah, nobody. So I've apologized to him many, many times for that since. But there you go, side by side. These were done within a week of each other.
Wow.
And the difference is thousands and thousands of hours of experience, the addition of a little bit of knowledge. That's all it was. What the Evolve program is, gives you the knowledge and then tells you to sit in the chair and earn the experience. And again, look at the date. Next painting. I want to
How much are you selling that for?
What was that? What was that?
How much are you selling that for?
This one?
Yeah.
You know, if I sell it, I don't have it in my portfolio. These are done in the same year.
Whoa.
I still don't even know that there's any such thing as gradients and sharp edges, cast and form shadows, light and shadow. I'm not even thinking about that stuff. Now, there's a whole bunch of other paintings that I don't have in here. I kind of streamline this. But I was painting every day. I was painting 15 hours a day, sometimes 17. I would work until I couldn't anymore. I would sleep until I woke up, and I'd go back to work. I did this every day, which is why the work is moving along as it is. And you can see I'm getting a sense of how to create depth. I didn't understand it. And you have to understand, I went out to Dorian's, I painted that one day, and I never went back. I didn't study with him. I took what I got, and then I went to work. Didn't feel the need to bother him. I had enough information. I was over one of the major hurdles, one of the major walls, and there was an open field for me to run in before I hit the next wall. From there, this is my first official book cover. This was delivered in January of '92, which means it was done in '91. It was done within a year of this. Hard to imagine. 1 year. A lot of hours, but only 1 year. Look at this. These are, again, this was done in December. It was done over the holidays. These are a year apart. Maybe a year and a half, 18 months. Over the next 8 years, I produced 250, 300 book covers. I did illustrations for just about everything. These are just book covers that I did. Book covers and game covers, Street Fighter. This was done for National Geographic.
Wow.
Magic, the card game. Mm-hmm. So this is the drawing for they did books. So this is the original sketch for the first book. This was the final sketch. So normally a sketch like this would be enough, but because it had to be approved by a secondary group with Magic, I had to go in and then tighten up the sketch for them. This is one of the photographs. So you can see it's a clean photograph. And this is the painting.
Whoa.
These are some portraits that I've done. So I got out of doing illustration, I got into doing portrait work. But you can see these, and these are all the life-size paintings. And here is my claim to fame after 300 or so illustrations, Rolling Stones cover. So I'm going to share with you something that very, very few people have gotten a chance to see. So here's the Rolling Stones cover. This was the original painting. This is the only existing version of it because this painting is underneath the finished one.
Oh.
So this is the only existing version of this. Everybody, you can go through this. There are a bunch of paintings in here, but you can go through this. You can see what my portfolio looks like. Give you an idea of who you're studying with.
Is that a current portfolio?
This is current. I would never update this again. I'm done. It's enough. It's enough. It doesn't need more. Okay, and last but not least, this is what inspired me to become an artist. And you're not going to get very many opportunities to get your nose up against the glass of something like this, but feel free to come over and take a good look at it. This is an original.